Hi, it's John Heaton. A few people have requested I do album reviews. Like one guy keeps on requesting Queen and maybe the Bee Gees, and I may get round to doing those. It's just that I have a bit of a rule that I don't like to review stuff which I don't have on vinyl. So I'll wait till I pick those up. I think I might have Spirits Having Flown somewhere, but it's not one of my favourite albums. I may get round to doing it. But anyway, someone else requested Shootout at the Fantasy Factory, that I reviewed that, and because I have such fond memories of that album, I dug it out, played it on the way to work, and it was I hadn't played it for years, and so I am going to review that album right now, because I've done a couple of Traffic reviews over the years, but I don't think I've done them justice really. So this album came out in 1973. It was the follow-up to Low Spark of High Heel Boys. Sorry, here's the cover. Very ingenious cover with the corners cut off. Cover designed by Tony Wright, who also did the Low Spark of High Heel Boys review cover, and also did Mark of a Diver and Talking Back to the Night, the Steve Winwood solo albums, as well as Natty Dread, Bob Marley, and Saved, Bob Dylan, and a load of others. A well-respected artist and album cover designer. So very innovative. The cut design of the sleeve was the same as Low Spark. Traffic were kind of a student sort of hip band to be into in the early 70s, particularly in the US perhaps, where they toured quite a lot, I think, and they toured in Europe as well. And they came out around about the same time, or the year before, with, I think this album was 72 or 73, and just check. Very nice designs with the traffic signs, the joke traffic signs, and good album label with the traffic on the road there. It's 73, so it came out the same year as Shootout at the Fantasy Factory, and it's a rather unsatisfactory live album if one's honest. It's a bit like Supertramp, one prefers their studio sound, and it's the same with Traffic. More funny sounds, here's the Traffic symbol which appears on all of their albums. It's not a bad live album, I just don't play it very often. But it's a kind of companion piece to Shootout at the Fantasy Factory, and this band, pictured on the back, Traffic, ever-changing lineup. So the stalwarts who remained from the previous lineup are Chris Wood on flute and sax, Jim Capaldi on drums and backing vocals, and also the lyricist of Traffic, and Steve Winwood. So Steve, Jim, Chris, and then you've got joining Traffic, Rebop on percussion, who actually he had been on Low Spark, and then he left after this album. And then you've got, from the Muscle Shoal Horns section, you've got the rhythm section of that, David Hood at the back there, and Roger Hawkins. And also guesting on, I think, Tragic Magic, one of the tracks on here, is Barry Beckett, who passed away in 2009, and Jimmy Johnson. So I was looking at this cover, and it must be quite sad for Steve to look at this cover, because three of the members here have gone. Jim Capaldi passed away about 15 years ago, Chris Wood passed away in 1983, and Rebop also in 1983. I'm not sure where this was taken, but it's got an interesting cover. And to the songs, I think the title track is a good funky number, and good use of electric guitar, not often used on the Traffic track. And Steve Winwood, an underrated guitarist, also always given credit for his keyboard work, but his guitar work slightly underplayed or unrecognized, I think. And he's a great guitarist, and he proves that on this album with rhythm guitar on the title track, and some fairly amusing words from Jim Capaldi. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but he was to continue the strange lyrics of Low Spark of High Heel Boys, another song which is difficult to comprehend really, I suppose, but nothing bad, just a bit wacky perhaps, but good track. And then Roll Right Stones is just a great track, and I really enjoyed listening to that just forgot how beautiful it is, the Steve's voice, using his voice as an instrument. So it almost sounds like a kind of flute coming in towards the beginning, and great sax from Chris Wood, and backing vocals, pretty prominent, almost joint lead vocals. Where Will I Go? I Don't Know, from Jim Capaldi. Now, a bit of history for you. The Rollright Stones are some ancient stones, a bit like Stonehenge. They're in England. They're in Oxfordshire, on the Oxfordshire-Warwickshire border, and they date from the Bronze Age. And the only thing that will sustain are the Rollright Stones. So that's basically in the lyric of the song. Everything is transitional, and the only thing that will remain are the Rollright Stones. It's a decent lyric, quite philosophical, and yeah, I like the lyrics on this. Jim's lyric works pretty well on this, and I just want to give you a bit of trivia here. The Rollright Stones were also featured in the Doctor Who story Stones of Blood from 1978, the third episode in the Key of Time series from that year, with Romana Mary Tam as the assistant, played by Mary Tam. And the Stones of Blood, the location filming was done all around the Rollright Stones, so that bit of trivia was for you, James Griffiths, because I know you'll appreciate it. So great track, goes on for the rest of side one. So that's just the two tracks on side one. Then you turn over to side two, and you've got a beautiful ballad from Steve, Evening Blue, lyrics from Jim, nice sax from Chris, very relaxing track, and a soothing melody. I love it. And then you've got Chris Wood. I think he solo wrote on his own. Tragic Magic, yeah, he did. It's an instrumental, and it's got some nice interplay from the band and prominent sax, and very enjoyable. This is the track which Jimmy Johnson and Barry Beckett are guesting on, although they're not credited on here, I don't think. No, they're not. And then the album finishes with Sometimes I Feel So Uninspired, which one unkind reviewer said sums up the whole album, which I think is a bit unfair. It's a bit of a depressing way to start a song. You think, well, this song's going to be a bit miserable. But then the second half of the song, it's uplifting, but don't let it bring you down. There is no reason for not failing. You've got to smile and turn the other cheek. That kind of thing. Tomorrow you'll be sailing. I like the spirit behind the song. So as I say, it starts off, maybe the critic didn't get beyond the first 30 seconds. Starts off depressing, and then it turns out to be quite an uplifting track, and it's kind of reminiscent to Let Me Make Something in Your Life from his first solo album, similar in style. And also that track, as does this track, features a really good guitar solo from Steve Winwood at the end, again showcasing his lead guitar duties, which he wouldn't do that often. I mean, I think he did it a bit on Low Spark on Light Up or Leave Me Alone, and I'm just trying to think of guitar solos. Dear Mr. Fantasy obviously is an obvious example, but few and far between really, either in his solo career or with Traffic. He tends to be more keyboard dominated in concert and on albums, but here demonstrating his guitar is up there with the best. And this album is a very solid album from Traffic, pretty decent, and I like it a lot, more than solid, bloody good. I probably slightly prefer When the Eagle Flies, their final album, just because I really like the style of that final album, but this is not far behind. It's basically on a par with that album and with Low Spark. Those three, I wouldn't like to say if those are the best three Traffic albums, because their 60s stuff was brilliant, but I have a soft spot for those three last studio albums of theirs, along with John Barleycorn as well, of course. They're all good. Check them out if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. See you next time.